Hello, Heiner.
Hello, Heiner.
Hi, hi.
You're outside. You're not in a big meeting today, Heiner. You were just in Vienna. You're not hearing me. It's okay.
Can you hear us, Heiner?
Do you hear us, Heiner?
Loud and clear.
Loud and clear. So how was Vienna?
Well, how could it be without you? We were with Franz. We celebrated Earth Day. I mean, the Earth Stewards with Sean McConnell. And then we had all the week system sciences. And this is very much all this academic scientists and not the requisite variety you would normally need.
Yeah. So I guess that's probably one reason I don't go, even though I'm very much into systems sciences and stuff.
Well, I'm in models, and we made a post-event, a Magic Roundtable brunch, and that was far out.
Good. Right. Hello, Ron.
Hi, Fleming, everybody.
Hello, Ron.
Jean-Paul. Heiner.
Hello, Frankie Lee.
Hi, Fleming.
Sideways.
Well, it's not sideways on my phone. I don't understand.
Yeah, it's always a
Well,
problem.
I'll be long and skinny then.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, well, okay.
I think we've got to contact Zoom because I don't.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, if there's a setting that keeps it in one direction or something.
That would be on the phone?
I haven't seen it in Zoom.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm on an iPad here. It should have the same settings, but I don't really see anything.
Well, it's odd. It didn't happen when I was in Gold Hill. So if that's any feedback, and I did it that way every time, so.
Doesn't help.
Nope. You'd like to think it did.
Yeah. Okay. It's okay. I think we probably expect a couple of more people, but I'm not sure. So we can sort of slowly start.
Who all's here?
Wow. So, well, do you see us?
Oh, I see. Now I do. Hi. Oh my gosh. Hi. Look at you. You have light today. It's the first time you've been in the light for a while.
Heiner is quite versatile. He might appear in many different places.
I've noticed that.
And I don't think you've met Jean-Paul, who's a
no.
friend
Hi.
of mine from other circles who showed up last time.
I watched the recording, so I saw him on last week's call that I missed.
Then you already know him. Yeah.
Only because of that. Hi, Jean-Paul.
Hello, Frankie.
Okay, so we're gonna stay somewhat with a similar theme of relationships, but the idea is to go a little deeper into it. Hi, Simona. How are you? And can you move your camera just a little bit, just so we see the lower part of your face?
Hello.
Hi.
Hello. I'm trying to do the setups.
Okay, so we just started.
I'm just here in landscape, so it's possible.
I can't use my cord if I have the phone in this position. Oh, wow.
So Heiner, you have a feedback thing, obviously, with the...
Hey, Heiner, what a great head of hair you got.
Heiner is a hairy guy.
He's got great
I just
hair.
wanted to check if it's possible that I can be in landscape or if I have to be in my smartphone also in portrait format. And it worked.
I'm back. I'm back. I'm going to get my water. I'll be right back.
Okay. Well, I'm muted. I'm an idiot. I think I'm talking and then I'm not. Well, so, okay. Everybody's okay with sounds? Simona,
Yeah, I can hear you. So if you can hear me, everything is fine.
everything is fine.
Fleming, your volume is the softest, and Simona, yours is the loudest, and it's a pretty striking difference. I have to keep adjusting my volume between that. So probably nothing we can do about it, though.
No, we should be able to. I could lower my microphone power.
Yeah, there's a setting in the program if you're on a desktop thing, it's might be under video settings actually.
I'm not sure how my volume is compared to everyone's, but
Perfect.
Your volume is good. It's perfect.
Okay.
Is my volume better?
I think it is better. It was pretty soft. I had a hard time hearing it.
Okay, so I put headphones on. Okay. All good. So let's just start. So we are continuing a little bit in a similar vein as the last time about relationships, but the idea is to go deeper. So the title here is what do you need from others? Like, why do you have relationships? So the idea is to go a little deeper in what's trying to be honest about what actually is it and why do we need it? And again, to remind everybody, this is not just an academic discussion or talking about it. It's to try to be present and inquire into the topic together in a personal way. So that might involve sharing emotions. It might involve sharing some stories, but it's not really about talking. It's more about listening and being present with what's going on in the group here. So all of you just take a moment to really become present. Take a deep breath. Notice where you are, the room you're in, the screen you're in front of. Be aware of your body. Take a few deep breaths. And whenever somebody is ready to start the conversation, let's just do that.
I can go. I'll go. I've been running a call similar to this with my organization. Oh, are you hearing an echo? Are you guys hearing an echo on my
Yeah, it's a
call?
bit of an echo. So
Little
everybody who's not speaking, try to mute your speaker. Then it's usually better.
Thank you. I found myself getting really emotional on the call the other day because I said something that to me it's really core for me right now. And I feel it would be core for humanity, having to do with when we start to go on automatic about we have to handle it right now, or we have to convey this information to the other person. And it kind of loses sight of the overall. And what the point is that it's like, I know that I'm good at certain things, and I know that I'm not the best person at other things, that there's definitely people who are much more versatile and gifted than I, for instance, with technology or whatever. And so when my friends started to go on about, wanting to convey this information to me about how I could upgrade my website, I knew that it wasn't right for me in the moment or necessarily for the call. And so I said that I said that, but I didn't feel heard. And I realized afterwards, and we spoke about it after the call, but that there really isn't much of a listening for this particular subtlety that I'm speaking to, which is that we really could be making a kind of energy shift of living in our gifts like I feel, came in to do. But we've been conditioned for so long to be trying to get good at the stuff we're not good at, to effort, maybe even getting fairly good at it, but it takes so much of our energy. So I feel we can move over to living in our gifts, and I'm making my own attempt to walk through that. And I realized, well, I guess I need to share it in more detail and be willing to do that rather than sort of make a blanket statement because it's so matter of fact for me. So it seems like some of what's going on in relationships, certainly mine, is that there's a more subtle nature that's being called up for us to be able to communicate more of an energetic, who we are energetically with one another, than the interpretive layers out that can really make a difference for us if we focus in on it. So this became an opportunity right here to share it. Like, oh gosh, I've been saying I'm going to do that. And then when this call came up, you just made the invitation. I thought, oh, here's a place for it. So that's basically what I'm seeing. And it doesn't really matter what kind of relationship it is. It's really a matter of treating the people that you're speaking with as we're already in relationship, and there was something about the way that you posed the call, as if we could not be in relationship, or, that we have to be reminded it's a relational world and that we need people, is to me kind of like the foundational misperception in the first place. So if we're always affirming relationship, and then it's less about, am I being understood, than it's my responsibility to take whatever steps that can actually allow the true communication to be taking place. That's it.
Well, one of the reasons for me to be here in this kind of conversation is in part to try to discover or become better at being aware of what's the right thing to say, or when it's the right time to say it or not to say it. And it's sort of a tricky thing. Like part of what I need other people for, or what I personally like relationships for, is that it's with different people. It's with people who are not like me, but somehow we like each other anyway, but they're different people, and people who have a different perspective that maybe I need sometimes. So what I really joy about relationships is this, that somebody can tell me this, something unexpected, something I didn't know I needed to hear, but I do. And I recognize at the same time that that's very tricky, because it's not everybody who thinks they have something to tell me that, all right, that's really what I needed to hear. So the puzzling part for me is how to try to always be connected with, is this really what's needed right here? I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect, but how can we be connected with knowing that actually we are saying what the other person needs to hear, or we're saying what really needs to be said? And even though I totally believe in that, and I'm for that, I still find it puzzling. So this is in part an exploration of trying to find out what's really appropriate. But my main point was that I like relationships with people who are different, who have something that I don't have.
Well, for me, it is always this question, what is a relationship? Is it with another person? Is it sexual? Is it philanthropic? Is it with a group? Is it disconnected on other continents and other languages? And I think I'm here because I want to feel how it is like when we have different affinities and different ties on so many different levels and so many different languages, cultures, belief systems. So it is like Fleming said, the diversity we have to experience, and at the same time, when we feel we are very close, that we make sure that we really get what the other is meaning, because then a lot of assumptions and expectations and guessing what the other thinks, and in the end we just mean that we know what he thinks.
I have a question for you, Fleming, because you mentioned your desire to need to discover if what you want to say is I might not be choosing the right word, but that needs to be the right thing to say at that moment, in that moment. And I'm questioning that necessity in your wording, that in relationship, do we actually need to say what's appropriate all the time?
Well, I should probably expand on what I mean by, well, the right thing. Like sometimes the wrong thing is the right thing. Like sometimes being misunderstood is right. Or sometimes somebody who comes from a totally different place and it's totally out of the blue. So it's more, I kind of believe that I'm not talking about a sort of a one rightness, that there's one right thing that somebody must know, but somehow there are certain things that fit in. And I think that almost any 2 people or 3 people or 10 people that come together, there are some threads that are alive. There are some things you can do or say that will work. And I don't have to be attached to what they are. It doesn't have to be what I expect. But I think there's a way of coming together where most things that happen sort of work. So it's not about that person being super psychic and knowing exactly what I need or something. But if we show up with each other to a certain extent, what happens sort of works. So I'm just kind of looking for a good enough kind of thing where we are not wasting our time. That's a little strong to put it, but where we're not just sitting listening to somebody talking for talking's sake, but that somehow they're connecting with something that's going on for me or for us, and somehow it moves us forward. So I'm looking for something that sort of moves us a little bit. It relates to what's going on. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it does have to be about right now and about us, not about some guy you're angry with from 10 years ago or something that has nothing to do with it. So none of us are perfect, but there's a sort of a sweet spot somewhere, I think.
That makes sense to me. The clarification, if we're, especially if we're wanting to be conscious communicators, then having us being present, to the more of the medley of who we are together, whether it's one other person or a larger constellation. We certainly got to experience that when we played different aspects of the greater world or nature or whatever, to give us more of a way into that understanding, to bring that into any communication. I felt it here. It's certainly come up. I felt it in, being in this wonderful town that I'm in called Paonia in Western Colorado. There's so much vitality in the natural community here. I've met more people and remembered their names and can tell you things about them, which is to me is reflective of a true connection, than any of the other communities I've been in along my way. Now I've also grown in the process, so this could be a reflection of progress as well as where I am. And I'm still sort of sussing it out, exploring how to take it to another level. For instance, there's these wonderful young women here, and they would like to have the benefit of the kind of wisdom of my years and experiences that I have. There's wonderful people that are dedicated to contributing to the community in ways that I see as kind of circles, but not necessarily interconnecting, where there's I feel this time, this sort of the great turning, that the promise of the time or the potential of the time is a deeper place to go, rather than socializing or even grokking each other generally. And that's the conversation or the relationship that I still feel it's a little out of reach, or I touch it, but it doesn't keep going. The momentum goes to this other, more surface, nice and lovely and appreciative place.
I also have a comment related to what Fleming said. Concerning the fact that you are trying to see when is the best moment to say the right thing. I personally think that one of the first steps in building a healthy relationship is to build confidence and make the other people understand that, especially because now we are living in a multilingual, multicultural world, to make the others understand that no matter what you say, you don't say it with you don't want to be mean. So every time when you will communicate with that person, if you ever feel that something that that person said or did, you find it mean, think twice if it might be because of a language issue or a cultural issue, or maybe because some words don't have the same meaning for some people, or we might feel affected in a different way because of some other exterior things that are happening to us in that moment, and we might be more or less sensitive. So I always thought that, for example, in a, well, we can have different types of relationships, but especially with friends, I think it's healthy to say, to be as sincere as possible and to give advices and say what you think, even if sometimes it's not, even if sometimes it's a bit tough, or that person might want to need something else in that moment. I find it more healthy rather than being always diplomatic, finding the right words, and in the end not saying what you feel, and developing on a long term some frustrations because you can't feel yourself and behave as you want to behave and say what you want to say. And I would also like to comment a bit about the question you asked, why do we need relationships? And I also found it interesting, the fact that you said, Fleming, that you like relationships with people that are different. And I was thinking a little bit before the call started, if we want friends because they are different to us or they are similar to us, or what's the right proportion. And I think I personally like people who are 50% similar to me, and 50% they have something that I really appreciate about them, or they have an amazing skill, or so skill, talent, or way of being that makes them extraordinary. So even if it's a talent of doing something amazingly at work or outside of work, or of having a quality like being very kind, wise, simple, or whatever. And I think we need to have close relationships because people around us inspire, because we need to get inspired to reach our goals. So I think it's important to have relationships with people that we appreciate and that inspire us. Also to advance in a career or to help us choose our priorities. And I think here it could be an advantage if we have a relationship with people that are similar to us, because knowing yourself better and having relationships with people who lived what you lived might be an aid for helping you choose priorities when you need it. And another thing that I found it interesting is when you are in a couple, having a relationship with another couple can be benefic, because you can share different experiences with them, and you can and I think if you have a relationship with a couple who has a healthy relationship, this can make your relationship healthier. And I think just to make a conclusion, and I think the main need for which we need to have relationships in this life is because we need to belong to someone and to get inspired. That's it.
just a little sort of facilitation point. I mean, that's all very good, but try to say sort of one thought at a time so we don't get too long. It's a little harder to respond to sort of a long thing that then we have to, when we get even longer responding to it. But otherwise, yes, I agree.
Well, let me share for me the way I see how I actually, at least in my mind, how I use relationship. Since we're talking about need, so I'm going to use the word use consciously here. As much as I understand that relationship goes both ways, and I do believe that I tried my best to do that, the more ego-centered side of consuming through relationship is part of it is, for me, is really emotional support and emotional vent when I get frustrations and those kind of things, that speaking with someone who can listen does help to help me lighten the load and get more clarity in whatever situation that I was living in and getting that issue there. On one end, so that emotional support and emotional bonding there. A second way that I've seen myself use relationship is for enjoyment purposes, spending time with friends. And I usually am not the entertainer in the group, but I do sit there and enjoy watching my friends making a show around the table and just laugh with them and those kind of things, and take the enjoyment of that. And the third way that I've seen myself use relationship is a bit like what you say, Fleming, is relating with people that are so different from me that I actually learn things. And when you express the word rolling forward, at least in my mind, what resonated was learning something new. And so whether it is right or not, I do not know. And I'm certain that with some people, it's not the right way to go for that, because I've had some pushbacks before. But it's true that in almost every conversations that I have with people, I enjoy driving sometimes the communication towards that level of more intimate, more open type of conversation. And just like this group, the first time I came in and I felt it was a place where, like you said, we don't need to defend ourselves. I don't need to put on a shield and just be there and share what I'm feeling right now. And having your feedback or your comeback to kind of assess where I am from my end of relationship. I don't know if it's clear enough or if you can understand that. So that's my utilitarian view of relationship. And I totally believe that it goes both ways, and I do that for others as well. But I know for me personally, that is part of that. That makes me feel a part of that greater network of people. But it does start with those basic needs there before it evolves into something bigger, at least for me.
Just a little bit about love, or maybe falling in love. I mean, there are many other kinds of relationships, but to me, it's kind of, there's something in, again, going back to the different kind of thing, that you're attracted to someone or something that are different and mysterious to you, but somehow you want to get closer to them, despite that you don't really know them, or there are parts of them that you don't really know or that are very different from you, but you still want to move ahead. And for me, there's something very exciting about that, which to me is falling in love to a large degree. It's also sort of the drive to, it's very similar to the drive to do things in life, to go on an adventure, despite that you don't know what's going to happen, sort of moving into the unknown, excited about it, but not really knowing in advance how it's going to work. And again, like Simona said, it's probably best that it's sort of 50-50. Like you have some people where at least sort of half of it, you kind of are on the same page or speak the same language, or you're at least friendly with each other in some fashion. But there's another half where you don't really understand this person, but it's very interesting where they're coming from, but they're like foreign to you. And I personally like to move the slider a little bit in the direction of that they're more foreign, like meaning most people who get married, they're maybe 80% we agree, and 20% they discover a couple of years later that they totally don't agree. I would rather start with the 50% where, okay, I'm totally cool with this part I don't get you at all, but it's interesting. And to me, that's part of what drives it, what makes it interesting to meet somebody, or to fall in love, which again, it doesn't have to be, but this sort of attraction to the mystery and the unknown and the difference. But that's particularly a value for me. Everybody might not work so much on the difference, but for me, it's a big driver.
No, it seems that there's distinctions between when you first meet and whether you stay in relationship with someone. Because I'm so out on the edge in my life, living full time on the road and being in new communities all the time, I have to say that the thing that brings somebody in relationship is it's immediate. It really, it's like there or it's not there. You know, it's really so present for me that I have an affinity with this person. So I don't think I'm making any of these other distinctions. I feel like I'm going more on a guidance system that affirms connection and has, you know, it's already present. So I'm working more with a awareness of the presence of something that's already brought us together. And clearly I'm out with a lot of people I don't necessarily make that connection with, but I can track. And that's why I shared about this particular community, is I'm finding a higher percentage. So but what has me stay in relationship with people is a deeper affinity, you know, likeness in terms of what we care about in the world and what we've dedicated our lives to. So like this group, and coming back to this group, I found I really missed that I didn't remember the call last week. It was the first time I haven't done the call since I began back in March. And I realized that it was fulfilling something for me, and that by missing it, I got to assess that and kind of be with what it was fulfilling for me. And it is a kindredness, but I think it has less to do with our likeness on the surface than it does with the depth of feeling and, you know, kind of a place that we're all dedicated to living our lives from. And so I've lived in households with people that really on the surface were very, very different. You know, I've lived with a Latino car repair guy in, you know, a part of LA that I never lived in before. And when I would drive home late at night, they actually pulled people over and checked their cars. Well, I'd never lived in a neighborhood like that before. So if I were to go by the surface, oh, wow, I'm out there doing things that a lot of people aren't doing. But the depth was really this, there's a term in the Celtic world, anam cara, the anam cara of kind of a heartfelt connection. And ultimately, I feel if we weren't gauging by difference as much as we are in this world, we could feel that with all manner of being, and certainly with the rest of humanity. And it would do us a good service to orient there. And I feel like my life is, at least in part, and all of ours, a stretching into that. And hi, Sam, welcome.
And hi, Mila, and hi, Harry. So you're welcome to drop in anytime, even though you weren't here in the beginning. No problem at all. Hi.
I was wondering about group relations. I was yesterday with Christian Wahl discussing with Fritjof Capra a seminar where he said the group is so diverse and some are in all regions of the world that we can step back. We can see how others react on what I say and maybe have a chat parallel to our conversation here. So the group, it's in itself forming and creating a fabric, a relation. So nobody has to do one-on-one question answer, but the group and its learning builds up mutually.
Hello, everyone. So I'm just reading what today's session's about. Why do you need relationships? And I think I would qualify different contexts. So depending, like as Fleming talked about, falling in love, so in a more romantic relationship, friends relationship, and work relationship, or something to do with your career, project, initiative, something to do with collaboration, groups. If I start with that first, that's really more on a rational thinking. So there's a quote by Jim Rohn about, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most with. And so for business or anything to do with project that needs a group to actually make it work, to deliver the outcome, I really am very rational and very strategic in terms of who those people I want to spend my time with regards to getting a project off the ground, whether it's for work, whether it's for just a hobby. So that's really rational thinking. I tend to find diverse people with diverse, they don't need to tend to have similarities with me. But they have different components, experiences that they bring in to the average of the 5. So we get diverse perspectives and creative tension. And with that is also, but the caveat is that our values are similar, because that allows when we have conflict, we're able to overcome it in a respectful way instead of clashes of ego. The other part of the relationship is friends and partner. My partner is 90% completely different than me in every respect, but our values are very similar. He's absolutely the opposite of me. So it's almost like what Frankie said about it's just a feeling, it's a chemistry. And with my friends, it's the same thing. And what Jean-Paul talked about of emotional support, emotional venting, when it's very close friendship, what I expect is that I can just be myself. I'm not judged for all my weakness, all my frailties, because I'm doing the same. Because we're close, we understand that we're wonderfully imperfect. For kind of wider friends, that just acquaintance that I don't know, etc., it's more connection and learning. I guess learning is a big thing for me. So what am I learning about myself, as well as learning from the other person? What richness do they bring into my life? So that is what I can share about relationship, what it means to me.
I'd like to add my vote to enjoyment and mutual learning as things that I'm here for. And almost everything that everyone said today is what I'm here for. It's really quite a thing. I've been having trouble trying to knit it together. I can't really knit it together. A lot of it's implicit and but so much of everything that's been said today rings true for me. And I'm here on behalf of myself. And if I guess maybe half means 50-50. And I'm here on behalf of the common me, our common me. And maybe the main thing I have to say about that well, no, I will also say that it involves what's in the world, and it also involves what's in the self. So it's inner and outer, and but it is the collective me. And on behalf of the collective me, I think the main thing that I need is to be aware.
One thing I'm looking for, and one of my reasons for being here in this group, is in part that I hope for, or I believe there is sort of a secret sauce. There's something, a sense that you can have that would allow you to communicate with anybody honestly and authentically and presently, no matter what the group is or who the individuals are. It's harder with some people than with others, but I'm sort of looking for making it as simple as possible, that you're aware of something. There's something you can take with you that would allow you to be with somebody else without having to go through months of getting to know them, although that's also nice and sometimes necessary. But why not be able to do it right away if you have certain very basic things, which doesn't have to be very much, but it's something about being friendly and open and paying attention and being flexible enough about different ways of seeing things. You don't need a lot more than that. You need to be interested, you need to listen to the other person, and you need to be responsible for your own reactions and views, and aware that there are others, that it's not just your version of it is the end all. The other person might see it differently. And what's interesting is to explore that together. So I really believe that overall humanity can be better at that. I mean, we communicate a lot, but we're not always very good at it. We often get lost in arguments about silly things and different ways of seeing it, or different ways of explaining it, or different groups we're part of, where really it could be altogether wonderful. It's great that we have so many different ways of seeing things and different experiences. So really, most communication could just be a joy, that you're meeting somebody else and you're finding out something about them. They're telling you something you might not have thought or seen before. So I want to get to that sort of faster, so we don't have to overcome all the obstacles every time, but you can sort of I have a sense of it, the other person has a sense of it, and we can sort of go straight to the good stuff. That's what I hope and believe. I'm a little idealistic, but I also, I'm pretty sure we can develop it more and become better at it, and maybe just recognize it. Like sometimes it works, you meet somebody in 3 seconds, something fantastic happens just because we connected and they said something, or we looked into each other's eyes and it somehow worked. I just want that more of the time.
I feel like there's a moment before any of that if we live our lives in the kind of the great I am presence of connection. I was walking through a park in Las Vegas. I'd had a wonderful couple of hours out with my hosts. They were somewhat ahead of me, and I saw a group of people picnicking, and I had an immediate recognition of, oh, they're wearing burqas and they're from some, far away place. And immediately they invited me over to the picnic with them and were very welcoming. And it turned out that they were from Syria. They were a Syrian refugee family and Vegas is one of the host cities. And but what had me bring it up in this moment was that there was a recognition of connection that preceded my being invited over there, that when I'm in a lovely place of feeling connected with all that is available, that would have them call me over and maybe not the 10 people before or after me on the path, So because we've been so culturated in our intellect and our deciphering and our analyzing, I feel like, those are all built after. But if we go back to that place, we do have immediate access with all people. So I would say that the very first element is recognition of connection. I recognize where, like, I loved what Ron said, the common me. I felt like, oh yeah, that's actually where I have affinity. I have that with that in all of you, with that in all.
To build on that, Frankie, I would call that intention, that recognition is an intention to show up and just open to emergence, really.
I think one thing I can share is actually I've witnessed that skill that we're speaking about in someone. And I was fortunate that that person took the steps to create a friendly relationship with me. So I met this person through Toastmasters in Paris at one point, and we had this immediate intellectual connection, if you could say that. But for me, at that point in time, it was just another person that I would meet, had a nice chat with, and just move on. But he insisted that we meet again. He made that intention of, there's something here, we need to meet again. And as we did, and we went out together, I definitely witnessed that ability that Fleming, you were describing of, being present and connecting with almost everyone that is around with so much ease, it's not about becoming the life party of the place, but simply being there, relaxed, and just appreciating every person he meets to wherever that goes, and connecting at the right level then. Some people will delve more, some just a moment there, and to not be attached with that. And I remembered him talking to me about that, saying that, because to me at that time, I was more into skill building. So asking like, what was your networking skill? And he said, it's just about being present, listening, And if the person in front is consciously evolved enough to know that they can listen too, then we have a higher connection or a deeper connection, as you mentioned, Frankie. But if not, well, it will be a one-way relationship, and each one will enjoy it in that perspective. What makes it difficult and what creates obstacles, and I find that true whenever I relate to others as well, is the kind of conscious or unconscious expectation that I have of people the moment I meet them. And often it comes slightly before I get in contact with the person. Like I see the person far away and I move on, and like how they're dressed, how they go around, there are judgments that would come out, expectations that comes out of habits when I'm not aware of those. My way of talking about that is I tend to label people with Post-its so that when I get a chance to meet them, I can take them off. But I still naturally put it on people. And I do believe it is one of the barriers of connecting when we come in with those labels, if we don't know how to remove them and then re-put ourselves in our presence. So indeed, I'm not like you, Frankie, in the sense, I don't feel like you in the sense I can be present all the time. It's more of a conscious moment that, oh, I need to switch and become present. This is the right moment to be there. So it's, for me, it's more of a conscious effort at the moment. But once I do that, yes, I do get that ease of building relationship, not having expectations of my needs being fulfilled or fulfilling the other person's need, and then just being there and appreciating the moment and see where it leads.
It makes me think of, if I'm honest, I mentioned something similar in one of the recent sessions, that I'm probably more passive in this than I would like to be, meaning I expect somebody else to sort of connect with me more than I necessarily create the space. I mean, once we're connecting and talking, I'm very open and creating a space for talking about anything, but I think I often wait for somebody else to sort of poke me first, kind of thing. And I would like that to be different. I would like to be more the person who invites somebody in who that otherwise wouldn't know how to connect with me. I would like to be more creative of that space rather than just sort of enjoying it when it's there. But if I'm completely honest, I usually count on somebody else more outgoing or something doing it for me.
I think that's kind of my basic tilt. Also, I've noticed it in creative work that I can tend to just run with something that's given to me. And but I've also had a lot of experience with a lot of people, and I've sort of learned to be able to make something happen from the start. Not that I did that today, but and also in a lot of that was in music and performing arts, and but also in guitar teaching, I've really had to learn to do that. I have a lot of guitar teaching experience, and I try to give everyone, if possible, I would like to, if I'm working with someone, I like to do what they want. But quite often I have to start things though, and I have to initiate things. And I really have to twist people's arms to get them to do what they want. I'm not sure where that leaves us, but I just noted that tilt that you were talking about, Fleming, I think I share that. And also, one way or another, have been able to work against type sometimes.
I wonder if we're actually addressing the fabric here, It's like I'm an upfront person. I jumpstart things. It's my energy. I do it in team sports. I do it in work. I do it in life, but I would be absolutely exhausted if I had to carry it all the way through and bring it to completion, and I often talk about, like, if I were on team sports, I never once tried being the goalie. It's just not my nature. So, you know, I understand about stretching into other ways. Like, I've done a lot of team things where we took turns who'd go over the wall in a different order and sequence. But by and large, I think what we're really speaking to is like our true nature and what's lovely about it. Like, I would love to work with you, Ron, if you actually go along with things. I have a whole group of people that, like, they go wandering all over the place, So, and I do like it when people, take the ball and run with it. That's one of my favorite things. Like, I love to share my little tidbits of life and have someone come back to me and say, I'd like more, or I got a result with it, or something like that. So maybe we have a place in the fabric, and it's all right, so we can taste of some other things. I just don't want us to feel like there's something better about the way someone else goes about it or something. That's what's natural is actually pretty darn great.
I noticed the friends that is nicest to hang out with in a group for me would be when it's people who know me well enough so they cover some of the areas that I might not do. So, like, or who knows that, well, maybe I don't want to be on all the time. So maybe I just want to, like, sit and take a nap and think about something else. So somebody who knows me well would just let me do that and would just go on having a conversation without thinking anything is wrong or something. So that's something I enjoy about relationships and about friends, that we sort of know each other well enough that we know that, you just need to let him sleep, or this is just that's fine. We'll take care of that part. So we sort of cover for each other in a way. I just wanted to mention that. Oh, and we are sort of at the top of the hour, so we should move towards a bit of a meta discussion about how well this experiment has worked and what we've maybe got out of it.
I thought it did work well, and it does. As soon as you talked about the meta discussion, I thought of a theme that I just didn't really want to bring up because it's kind of a cliche, or it's early. But anyway, it really did kind of fit the metaphor of musical collaboration, especially pretty much like open improv type of musical collaboration. And I'm still not sure what the underlying languages are, Fleming, that like music, except in this case, I'm not sure what those are. In the case of musicians, they kind of have some ideas of what the underpinnings are. In this case, it's spread out a lot more, maybe, or not, but nonetheless, it still had the character of a musical jam session, and each one had an effect on everyone.
I love that. I love that description. I feel like we all came playing ourselves, and we got to, you know, see how one moves to the next. I learned a lot about every person on the call today. This was a context that really, I felt, brought things more to the surface, the flavor of the individuals and who we are together.
I liked it very much, and I think I even have evidence. Fleming lost the time. We are much beyond the normal time, which means we are in the subject. I had the bells ringing here, so I suddenly realized, oh, it is already 1 hour past. And I think that is the best indicator.
That is a great indicator, particularly in a creative process, which hopefully any process might be creative. If you get lost, it's a pretty good sign.
Well, I apologize for being late, but I thought I'd throw a little bit of my own flavor into this mix. The question to me is a lively one, so I just want to be equally lively in my response. And that is that I come here with you and with other conversations and dialogues to have intercourse. We have verbal intercourse, and we don't think of it necessarily as verbal sex. We have physical intercourse. We do think of that as sex. And the metaphors teach us something about the way we interact. And I'd like to find a way to have those kinds of interactions, those intercourses on all chakras, not just those two. So I'd like to take that metaphor from sex and say, I would like to have a conversational intercourse, a verbal intercourse, without using verbal condoms. We're protecting each other right now. I'm protecting my ego. I'm trying to figure out whether or not I'm vulnerable to this or that. I'd like to enter it knowing that we've already had our HIV tests in a verbal or intellectual or spiritual or heart-based sense, so that we don't have to have those protections, and we could go into it with that kind of trust and have that kind of openness across all of these chakras. Likewise, we can have those lessons that we have around verbal dialogue and apply them to all the other chakras, including sex. You know, we have a large dictionary, a large set of nuanced terms to use in verbal dialogue. Some of us may, probably most of us don't, when it comes to sex or spirituality or some of the other chakras. So that's the model I'm trying to find myself in intercourse with for this group and all other groups that I'm with, one-on-one as well as in groups.
Well, I like that. One of my purposes for being here as well is to connect on as many levels as possible. So it's not just a conversation with words that we're exchanging, but there are feelings, there's the body involved, there's all parts of us involved. So that does apply. Like, how can we make it more multi-dimensional? And I think I liked what we did today. I'm not totally sure what came out of it, but as Frankie Lee said, I think we know each other better. And we did get some different angles on relationship, which I think is useful. So, and I think we can go deeper somehow or further after this.
I also think it was very interesting to listen to your point of view today, because I'm very interested in the topic how to build relationships nowadays, because I'm trying to build a group identity in my company. We have 2 teams with 50 people, and I'm trying to do all sorts of experiments to bring the people together, and it's very, very frustrating because everyone is very different, and some of them seem to be very self-sufficient, not being interested to get into this group thinking that I'm trying to build. And yeah, I'm trying to see if I can have a more personalized approach with each one of them. And yeah, it's very important to listen to your point of view, because maybe some other colleagues in my team would have a similar opinion, and it might help me to approach them better. So thank you, Fleming, for having organized this.
Any other closing remarks from anybody?
From my end, the impression I have at the end of this conversation is we are still at the surface of the topic, kind of a sense. We have everyone's opinion. We've had this, we had the conversation of taking angles, breaking angles, like context of relationship that determines other aspects. So by going through those and having, even though it is personal experience that is being shared, I feel slightly frustrated in the sense that I didn't feel we went as deep as we could have gone. At least that's my impression there. Not that it's not interesting, and I love those perspectives that we had. But that's my impression, at least, that we didn't get that deeper connection, at least through this conversation, or I didn't get that feel of that.
And I actually share that. I was hoping for maybe some deeper presence thing. Nothing wrong with what happened, but we can go further somehow. But we can discuss afterwards what maybe to do next. Any other closing remarks?
Well, I guess I want to counter that just a little bit and say I felt like people felt free to share what they felt to share. And that's why it was satisfying for me today. There was a great range, but I felt like each person really came from what was true for them. And that I liked a lot.
I agree with that too. Okay, well, otherwise, I will take this opportunity to thank you all for coming. I hope to see you again. I don't know what we're going to do next time, but we'll have a short planning meeting afterwards for anybody who wants to stay. And otherwise, it was lovely to see all of you. Thank you for participating and making it lovely. So take care. See you soon. Stop recording.